Okay. Hello, everyone.
Right.
My story begins on the 18th of June, 1953, when I was born on a tiny Caribbean island. Oh my God, that smells amazing. I'm trying. What? My story begins on the 18th of June, 1953, when I was born on a tiny Caribbean island called Union. Union Island is part of the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and has an area of only 3.5 square miles. In July 2024, Union Island was devastated by Hurricane Beryl, leaving 99.9% of the residents homeless and all the infrastructure in ruins. Intensive rebuilding is currently being undertaken. I have brought along some brochures depicting St. Vincent and the Grenadines, including Union Island and the other islands that form the Grenadines. And if you would have a look, that'd be useful. I emigrated to Trinidad around the age of 2 into the care of my grandmother and my father. At the age of 11, I passed my common entrance exams and was selected to attend the prestigious St. George's College, named after St. George the Martyr, patron saint of England. Our college motto in Latin was Ex fructibus cognoscetus eos, which in English translates as by their fruits you will know them. And it simply means the rewards you receive after hard work is what you will be judged on. Work hard, it pays off later. This motto was instilled in us from the onset. And apart from gaining your knowledge and skills, the ethos of the school was attitude, determination, and perseverance. Failure was not an option. We were educated with a sense of purpose. On leaving college at the age of 16, I returned to Union Island, St. Vincent, where I worked for the government as a clerk in the Revenue Office. This job somehow set the path to my long career in administration. In December 1970, at the age of 17, I left St. Vincent and the Grenadines and traveled to the UK to join my husband, who was already settled here as a member of the Windrush generation. In February 1971, I began employment in the UK at the British Museum Library, which later became the British Library based at King's Cross. During my time, I met with the racial challenges and structural biases that existed then and still exist today. However, my solid grounding at St. George's College laid the foundation for my career. At no point did I embrace the thought of being a victim of racism. At the young age of 26, I began my management career as a payroll manager, responsible for ensuring over 2,000 staff received their correct salaries and other payments on time and at the correct rates. I was involved with the negotiations with the unions and the Treasury to arrive at the annual salaries for the non-standard grades, for example, bookbinders. At some point later, I became the Management Information Officer with the responsibility of deriving the staff budget for the new British Library. One of the highlights of the job was conducting the survey amongst the readers and visitors to gain their thoughts and suggestions on how they could benefit from the move to the proposed new building. As a result of my involvement, I had the privilege of a tour on site in King's Cross during construction. I began part-time study to be an accountant at London College of Print and Business School, which is now part of the University of the Arts London. However, due to family commitments and the intensity of the course, I did not continue. Instead, I obtained a higher national certificate in business studies. Subsequent to this, I attended Westminster Polytechnic, now known as Westminster University, where I obtained a postgraduate diploma in management. In 1992, I was granted ill health retirement from the British Library and remained at home for a couple of years. Somehow, following this, I felt somewhat demoralized at not working, and I rejoined the civil service on a conditional health appointment. I started working at the benefits agency in Wembley, where I was involved in the transition from unemployment benefit to job seekers allowance. I worked at different benefit offices and in 2000 moved to Harrow Job Centre as a manager on income support. In 2001, the benefits agency became part of the Department for Work and Pensions. I began working on minimum income guarantee for pensioners. That it was the equivalent of income support for pensioners in those days. And I was then appointed as overall manager to oversee the implementation of pension credit to Harrow and Hillingdon pensioners, as well as the migration of their state pensions to the new pension service, then based in Glasgow. This involved me having to directly manage a number of staff and included overseeing the physical movement of the pensioner payment records, whilst ensuring all pensioners were still receiving their payments. I had to attend conferences and meetings with high-level government officials so that ministers, relevant heads of departments, and local authorities could be kept up to date on how the implementation of pension credit in Harrow and Hillingdon was proceeding. During this time, along with my staff, we organized fundraising days for Help the Aged. For this work, I received a letter of gratitude from the then Prime Minister, Tony Blair. This is my original copy of the letter from Tony Blair, which I'll...
No, just hold it down when I zoom in. They can see it. And then we can pass it around.
Thank you. Once this work was completed, I then began investigating benefit fraud cases and qualified as an accredited fraud specialist. One of my most notable cases was the investigation of a millionaire from Northwood who had various businesses and properties whilst claiming benefits as unemployed. This culminated in him receiving an 18-month prison sentence and having to pay the government in excess of £100,000 under the Proceeds of Crime Act. Several of my cases have either made the national newspapers or been featured on television programs. During my employment career, I also worked on a part-time basis in the NHS and at British Telecom. After what feels like a lifetime of public service and asserting my authority, I handed in my retirement notice at the beginning of 2020. But this was swiftly followed by COVID-19 and the subsequent lockdowns. I was requested to stay on and assist with the national effort, which I did, and eventually retired at the beginning of September 2021. Now, for some personal highlights. In 1980, I was a guest to the Nigerian government and spent 3 nights at the headquarters barracks of the Nigerian army. That for me was the most daunting and frightening experience of my whole life. In 1989, with my husband as the driver, armed with the little I could remember from my French O-level, a tiny phrase booklet, and a couple of maps, I navigated a coach full of mainly mothers and children up and down the French and Swiss Alps on the way to and from the ski resort in Switzerland, Les Diablerets, which is 3,900 feet above sea level. In 1998, along with my husband, I was privileged to transport the Jamaican national World Cup team, who had qualified for the World Cup, to an event in London. During this time, I obtained the autograph of the entire team and the officials. In 1999, due to rapidly failing health, I underwent a procedure called radiofrequency ablation to rectify a congenital heart defect. My main hobbies have been doing puzzles of all sorts, including 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles, knitting, and gardening. In the autumn of 2023, I became aware of the Carib Club run by Age UK, Hillingdon, Harrow, and Brent. I deliberated for a couple of months before attending, but when I eventually did, I was very welcomed and was handed the appropriate forms to complete by our leader, Juliet, who's in the room today. She coordinates events and activities on our behalf. I find the club to be very inspiring and a great source of well-being, meeting up with like-minded persons, reminiscing and sharing experiences past and present, in particular, how it relates to our current lives as elderly persons, sharing common experiences as a generation of people from the Caribbean, making new friends, attending socials, for example, visits to the theatre, having afternoon tea, learning new arts and crafts, for example, jewelry making. Our leader, Juliet, along with her very able assistants, are very approachable and on hand to issue guidance and point us in the right direction. We receive a lot of love. I look forward to attending the Carib Club monthly, and I know I speak for others when I say it would be nice if you could have the timing extended. Now, my story would have little meaning without me telling you that I am the head of a large family in the UK and see myself as a successful mother of 4, ranging from ages 56 to 44, grandmother of 8, ranging from age 33 to 13, and great-grandmother of 3, very soon to be 4. Nowadays, a lot of my time is spent focusing on the well-being of all my grandchildren, whether directly or indirectly. And I am committed to spending more time in Union Island, enjoying more sun and sea. Thank you.